Welcome back to the Little Jewel Show, making progress this week. As I mentioned, Little Jewel will be my shop truck. It's got the crane, it's got the fenders, it's coming along. We got some fuel tanks also. Super single rear tires are installed. All of this is mock-up, right? The whole thing gets taken apart before it gets finalized. So yes, you can pick up on all the loose ends that are happening while I'm mocking it up. If you know how I work, I like to throw a design, maybe just on the front of the vehicle, maybe on the rear or on the side. Think about it, right? I don't get too involved with just going right to the finish, as we all know, because things could change at any moment. Today's adventure, where the fenders left off, the running boards must begin. I love that, I love that, I love that, and that. This area right here, that's our point of concern. It's the missing piece, the missing link. What brings the front to the back better than a running board? Follow me? Let's do it. All right, so what we got, our fiberglass fender is bolted to this angle steel, and that is attached to the link arm. It's attached to the front suspension, because all of this goes up and down, if you can dig it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring a running board mount that doesn't move. So right here will be a little bit of a pivot. Not a problem if I do it right. Could be a big problem if I do it wrong, because when that moves, it's gonna bend this, or probably break that. So I'll look under here and I can see a clear point of attachment, and the cab doesn't move. And I think it would look better if the running board came up close. That would give this a little opportunity to move, and it would just take this gap up a little bit, if you're following me. So let's do that. Do we want to do that? I don't know. You know what? Maybe we'll box this and we'll put the running board right behind it. That way this can swing independently. What I was thinking was if I put the round tube support, this is going to clang into it. See? I'm already getting ahead of myself. Let's take a piece of angle steel and let's box this. That way I can still get in there with hardware. Yeah, I'll be able to reach in there. Is that what we want to do? Man, I'm getting hung up. Tell you what, let's build the running board first and then figure that out later. How's that sound? Is this going to move up and down 1.5 inches? That's my other question. I don't know. Let me cut this off and get a piece of tube and put it in here. How about that? That was confusing right off the go. Be right back with some tube. All right, so here's what all the huffing and puffing is about. The front axle pivots right here. So this whole thing is doing this. So what I was getting at is to bring this up 1.5 inches, here's our bottom. That axle is moving considerably. So what I think I might do, because we don't need a lot of this edge, it's primarily this that's supporting that fender, and we can build more on this side of it over here. So I think I might cut this out of the way if it's interfering. What I'm getting at is I'd love for the running board to end right here like that. Does that add up? That way there's a gap between the fender and the running board, but they don't hit each other. So if I was to pull this up to here, so that's parallel right there. This might be more difficult than I thought. I might have to come back around here with a support. Who dug it? That means taking the cab off. Uh-oh, thinky and think. I could bolt the running board up to the body. I could drop it down from this panel here. That'll be strong, and I don't even have to hit the chassis. Man, just when you thought it was going to be easy. I walked in here thinking I was going to weld right to that. I even moved the hardware over, if you can see that hole. I forgot that this moves with the front axle. It's getting complex. So to do that, yeah, I think I'm just going to have to drop down off the body. Let me open the door. I think I could weld right to this rocker panel. Yep. That's what I was thinking. I'm going to come straight down from here. Then we'll just brace it back up. Because this, you can see here, this is all beat up, but I can fix that so that it doesn't hit that rocker at all. Yeah. All right, so that's what we're gonna do. You can see this line here where the rubber seal hits. So anything we build can go below that, and this is strong. Let's measure down and see how far we gotta go. I was thinking this might be a really boring and non-eventful episode. And of course, everything gets complicated. So it's 6.5 to that rubber thingamajiggy. So if I want this tube to be at that level, that to be about 6 inches long. So we need a 6-inch strap that comes down, and that 6-inch strap is going to be 29 by 6. That is a big ask in this workshop. Or I could put straps. I know I have some flat bar. Why don't we do that? Why don't we make 4 straps, 6 inches? Because what if this line here, you know, we want that level. Okay, I'll tell you what, let's do this. Before we build those, let's lay this out. I like that hanging off the cab, but we want this to be level on the ground, or at least something like that. So we need a piece. Let me get another tape. We're gonna crosshair this off the ground. That is roughly a foot. It's 12 foot 1/4. It's 12 inches and 1/4. So 12 1/4 to there. So that's cool, but that comes out pretty wide. So maybe we want this come back maybe 30 inches. Maybe at 30, it'll come straight back from the fender. It'll hit at 30. Maybe it'll bend. That looks pretty cool. And it'll just die right into there. Nah, I think that looks better. Yeah, this is the way. Or we could do 2 bends and just have it straight in. We could do 30. I think it would be more like 36. From the back of the cab to here, yeah, let's do 35. Maybe then to 4 feet. We have to build this in 2 pieces? I don't know. It's coming off of here. I don't really want this to look like a big shelf is hiding that. So maybe if it came out from here at 8 inches, it bent forward. Let's do that. Let's do this 1 piece at a time. We're gonna pull the tube at 8 inches. We're gonna pull a bend. I don't know how sharp that bend's gonna be, but we're gonna feel that out. So all in all, we're gonna want our piece of steel to be roughly, I don't know, what is that, 7 feet, give or take. All right, let's put that long piece of tube we have from the other part of the project with the fenders. Let's put a first bend at 8 inches and bring it over here. See, this is what I was saying. I got this huge piece of tube, and I'm always trying to conserve material. So I don't want to just go cutting a random 7-foot piece off of this one. So let's just make our mark at 8. We'll suspend that. We'll bend that. We'll be off to the races. See, that's why I confuse myself when I'm talking so much, because you may not understand my mode of material conservation. This is why I need a dedicated bending station. I'll show you, I have the material outside for the walking platform, for the footboard of this. And I'll show you my big old table. You remember it from the Mojave shop, I'm sure, that big half round thing. I like that it's half round because I can make little stakes that will hold this material up. See what I'm dealing with now? I've got an old toolbox, plastic footstool toolbox that it's resting on. But in the long run, there'll be a perfect distance from the table to hold big pieces of material. All right, we're at 8 inches. Let's pull this, I don't know, to 45. Whoa, hold on, hold on. First day in a new shop, you know how it goes. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. 8 pulls. Might be enough. Is it? There's only one way to find out. If we put it on the truck, we're going to be out the outside door now. Isn't that exciting? I'm going to lay this next to the truck and I'm just going to cut it off. Whose idea was it to bring this gigantic piece of steel? Don't even hit the ceiling. I got to open the door to the hot heat of hell. Just a little bit. All right, let's make this quick. So this is what I was saying. That piece comes to there like that. You know, I can't swing it because of the freaking door. But I have a feeling right about here is going to be too long, so I'm going to cut that off. I'll be right back. Hope I measured this right. Looks like it. So if that comes out, say, to there, right? I like that. Kind of reverse engineering my idea a little bit. So I was starting to work from the front. But let's just say, no, we want that bent less. I'm gonna put this in the trailer hitch, less of a bend. There it goes, I like that. Okay, so I'm gonna get a little jack stand, I'm gonna stand this up. All right. Jack stands are in use, but that ain't stopping us. We got that as a holder at that height here. See what I'm saying? All right. So we got that sitting there. Let's bring that up. I like that right at the center there. And see what I did this for? We have a representation of the heights. Yeah, I like this a lot better. So what I'm seeing is if we're drawing a line straight back from that fender, so I just have this smaller piece of steel I can lay up here. So pretty much, see what I'm doing? It's like that. That's the representation of the fender coming back. I actually stick this right in here. Yeah, that's cool. That way this line appears to go straight back. So that being said, we're gonna make our bend just on the inside of this. I'm looking at this, where it starts to bend, you know, we're not talking perfection, we're talking about that much. So I'm just gonna put my finger that much inside this bend. We're gonna mark a clear top right here. And we're gonna pull this. How far are we gonna pull it? Degrees wise, I don't know, but what I want is a 90 degrees from here to that end is 90. So whatever that bend is, I don't know. Is it 45? No, because we just are winging it. Art. Let's go to the bender. You see what I'm coming up with here? It's coming straight in from that joint, 90 degrees to the chassis, and coming out to the fender line. So we got our mark. We have our top marked. We got that. Got our little hoo-ha in the doodah. One of them. Yeah, looks good. I just twist it. Put a fan in here yesterday, so if you hear a little humming in the background, that's what we are. Not background noise, because it's hot. All right, let's pull this. How much? I don't know. But you can figure, you know, this isn't parallel with the edge of the table. It's a little bit out. So I'm just going to gauge this. Once that becomes parallel with the table, that's 90 degrees. So we're going to be in the ballpark. I could lay this on the table like I do so many times, and maybe we'll try that before we put it on the truck. See what I'm saying? This is starting to come at a 90-degree interface. All right, we're hitting that. Just gonna give that a little pull. Put it on the table and see. Kind of an odd looking shape. So I have a seam in the table that's 90 degrees. That's the end of this sheet. So when I do that and I do that, it's darn near perfect. It's actually just a little bit out. Drum roll, please. Sure does. I love it. And this is what I was saying. Pretty good estimate. I didn't want to come up short. I'm about that much too long, which is fine by me. I'm gonna cut this off right there. Be right back. There it is. Totally cool. So looking at it now, I think I want to take some off of that. I'm gonna take my eye. Looks like that. Just take a little gauge here. See, this is what I'm looking at. All right. Go from there. Yeah, it looks better. So we're gonna cut that in too. So that's cool, right? Because you have a running board here, and it just kind of dies back just as the cab comes around, but you still got something to step up on. So let's do a little half and half. Let's put that bend right there. That'll be cooler. That looks more in line with the door. I'm looking at this now. Let's cut that right there. Be right back. All right, so that's cool. But what I'm gonna do here is I can't weld this to this because this is moving. So that's just a rest point, and then I can cut that off with the Sawzall after. So I'm gonna move this back just a little bit rearward. That way this gap and that look nice, like that. Cool. Now let's see what's happening height-wise. You could probably see that just with your view. Looks pretty good. I mean, looking at the camera, we want that level with the ground, I think. So what did I say, 12 1/4? So that black line on the tube is 11. And it's 10 1/2, so it's dropping down a 1/2 inch. So with the suspension all the way dropped, now we're at 11. So I'm gonna weld that. Let me make sure that that one's acceptable as well. 11, that drops. I want that right there, 11. Correct. That way when the rear suspension angles up, well, yeah, the chassis angles up when the rear suspension lifts. You know, this got a little more hot rod rake to it, but at rest it's level. A lot to think about with adjustable suspensions. Fire up the welder. So I'm just gonna weld to the chassis right here 100% because we're gonna be doing a lot of other stuff around there and I don't want this to move. When I say a lot of other stuff, all the other supports. I ain't interested in just tacking this and having something go weird, so just hit this good. So because this is a step and it's really far out from the truck, I did a double pass on the top side of that. Both of these are strong. Remember, that chassis is like 3/8 thick. But I am gonna swing under here and weld it all the way around. All right, because if you know people, like I know people, they're gonna be jumping on this thing. We don't want it to bend. So that's cool. We're gonna need a lot more strength now. That's what I was saying, by locking that. Now this is for sure. I think I'm gonna put a nice straight shot right into the chassis there. And I guess we'll just use the same material But this is so pretty. Let's use something that's not pretty on the inside, because that's just got to be strong. I think I got some flat bar. Okay, so there's that big ball joint, heim joint thing right here. So you can go behind that, because that's the chassis. So we got about 27 3/4. Let's see what we got. We need 1.5 inches. Otherwise, I'll just use the tube. Be right back. I had this 2-inch by 1/4-inch flat bar, so that's 1.5. And we don't need to worry about strength this way. It's only this way, because it's pushing down. That's it. So this will be adequate. Yeah, perfect. You just get a square to lock that in, and we're good. All right, so now I don't want this to be raising up inside either. So let's put our flat gauge. See what I'm doing? We're coming across the inside like that. So actually, it's just a little bit off. So between the front mount and the back mount, it's level. Only one way to tell. I might put another one. Let's put another one. Well, yes and no. Because we're gonna have this. See, that's where I was going. That's what we're gonna do, and that's gonna lock it down. We clean the paint off of that. So, to take the cab off, if we weld this together, we can't take the cab off, right? But I'm gonna build it. Then what I typically do is slice through the material and make a bolt plate that's discreet and hidden. So we know we wanna hit the bottom of that. We wanna come up to this line where the rubber seal meets, and that is looking at about 9.25 inches. So let me get a piece of steel, 9.25, flat. Okay, so this is what I was just getting at, right? We got this flat steel that's gonna attach to the cab. So it's really easy for me to put a doubler behind it, clamp it, and then drill holes. So I could slice this, it opens, backing plate comes off, 2 bolts. Probably have 2 backing plates, because there's gonna be a front mount as well. But instead of setting all that up right now, taking the time, etc., we just build. This is going right to the bottom of that. So I'm just gonna set that on its natural angle. That's gonna come down to here, like that. All right. Now before we go too far, the whole goal was to get that door to close. No problem. Sweet. So see what I'm saying? Bolt, bolt, backing plate. Then you can remove it. Heck yeah. Like every great welder says at least once in his life, that ain't going nowhere. Yeah, that alone makes me like 1,000 times more confident. Yeah. Totally. We don't even need anything more than that. I could come out to there, but I don't believe that's ever going to be an issue with the top plate that we're using. I have a 3/16 flat plate. Totally cool. So now there's still this issue of those fenders moving up and down. So let's drop. Let's do the same thing here. Let's drop a piece. Can you do that this way? Yes. So we're level. We're level with the sill right here. So we're going to drop a piece just behind that. The same thing. So from there to, so it's the same thing. It's about 8 3/4 here, because remember that's 2 inches. That's why it's thicker than that. Down from here, that. So you want to stay behind this. And our rubber lines right there. So this is going to move. So I'm going to measure to the top of this. So we're going to put a 6.5 inch piece straight down. Be right back. Is that what we want? Let me get this tube as a mock-up. So see, this is what I'm saying. If this is the front of our running board, it's going to be a 90-degree cut, 245s. You want that piece to just catch that. So yeah, 6-inch piece is perfect. Well, I could go lower. No, if I go lower, it's going to hit this. Or I could, yeah, let's go, this is 1.5 inches, so let's go 7. I'm trying to grab this a little bit more than just landing on top. So I'm going to make that 7. It's going to wrap over the side a little bit. 6 3/4, 7, yeah. So this is what I'm getting at. When this is hanging down, this is hanging down there. And this piece comes in like that. See how it's going to grab it? Got my Sharpie marker as a wedge. I'm going to cut that little notch out of there. If I can get a little bit more of a grab on it, like such. Right? And then just like that. Cool. So let's set up this. It's a little bit outside. Let me get my, yeah, this did flex in a little bit when I welded it. I'm not happy about that. Oh, there it is. So we're gonna cut this at 45, like so. Bada bing. Get that disc. Little fine tuning, you know how that goes. So see how I'm leaving this short? Because I want a nice radius turn. I don't want it to look like it's sticking way out of shape. So I'll show you how I treat that. Cool, so that's gonna work. That looks good on the inside. Now when this comes down, I want some more room. This up a little bit. This comes down like that. That comes to there like that. Cool. All right. Let me move this fan. I'm going to weld this. And I want that a little bit higher. I stomped it down too hard. Sometimes being a savage doesn't pay off. I mean, this is always going to be moving, but I just want to have a certain kind of look. There we go. I'm probably gonna put a little rubber trim on there, a little flap or something. All right, one big serious tack. Let you know where you want to be. And we got this. We're gonna pull position like that. So see what I'm saying? I can run the Sawzall right through here and then not even have the issue of this ever hitting. First, we're gonna take this, as we mentioned. Get a good grab right there. Yeah, that'll be totally cool. Let's do this first though. This way we don't take off, so we don't have to take off any more material back there. Get one more good weld here. Now watch how I treat this. I'm cutting through the angle as well on the bottom. So the idea here is, this will never hit. I'm gonna do that with a Sawzall after the fact. I cut a little notch back here, so when this moves, it'll clear this all the time. Trying to preload some stress in the upward position. Does that make any sense? I'm trying to make sure that it wants to stay up. So once you start standing, it doesn't sag. That's the whole thing here. As a step, you want this strong. Let me get my glasses. I'll turn this heat down a little bit. So I mentioned what I wanted to do here. So let's just go right in with the grinding disc and dress that up. This is essentially just going to be a big blob of weld, but I want to round this off. That way it doesn't have that big hard welded outside 45-degree look. Just gonna heat this up and just let it be molten. See, I'm just letting the weld bead form. Before it falls, I let it cool. It grabs the next piece I sliced. Putting like a big kind of elbow shape on it, and I can grind that down. This does have to be strong, but it's gotta look cool. I want it to look like a railing. Yeah, so it's blobby there, but I can grind all that out. All right, now take the Sawzall and run it through. You know what I'm saying? Not a very straight cut, but I can get in there and do that. But that way, see that? They're never gonna touch. Little piece of fender welt over that gap. Good to go. Yeah, I feel decent about that. This could be stronger, but you'll see when I put that plate on here, I have some thick plate, and I bet that alone is gonna be enough. So what I'm gonna do is I gotta rough cut that outside. Yeah, that looks perfect. Sweet. Door still shut. All right, so this next event is going to be uncomfortable. I'll show you outside the door, but I'm going to bring that piece of steel in after I cut it. So we want that piece of steel to be about 28 and a half. Is that correct? Well, yeah, we only need it to here. So let's make it 28 and a half by 49 and a half. That way I don't forget. 49.5. So we got a 48-inch piece of steel out there. So I'm gonna have to cut it on the other one. Let me open this door and show you. Oh, nice, it's cloudy out. Not gonna subject everyone to the heat. At least it's cloudy, so, oh, look at that, we can get it. Nice. Excellent. So we're gonna go 28 and a half this way. 28 and a half. Check. So you can see this is substantial for a truck step. So I'm actually just gonna zing this off right here and I'll bring it inside, but I'll see you back there after this is attended to and we'll trim it up. Whew, all right. Well, this battle was long fought. 3/16 inch plate. I like to use the cutting disc, plasma cutter, torch, yada yada. Not trying to burn up my nice floor. Takes a little more time. You're able to relax, enjoy a nice seltzer or something, and cut through the thing without a lot of, I mean, there's some smoke, but it's not the same as a torch cut. And plasma cutters, they're expensive. There's a lot of little parts for that stuff. I don't need it. Cutting disc, results. So check this out. I made, I cut that piece off of the giant piece of stuff outside, brought it in, and then I trimmed it around. I trimmed it around the brace that drops, that brace, and then I tailored it to fit this nice curved shape of the tube. And I left a little room around that. That way that hardware, should it ever need to be taken out, you can access it. Little cap over there, and then, come on. Quite simply, to finish this off, the rocker panel will just drop right to that, and it could hide the hardware that will let the cab come off. Thinking ahead. So I have the floor jack under that side because this plate was actually in the driveway of our house in California, and it's pretty warped from people driving over it. So I'm going to have that lifted up. I'm going to tack this in place and then drop and clamp that. And should be able to step on it and call this episode yes. Episode yes. Because little Jewel needed a little pep in her step. And I think we're there. I think we're actually achieving that right now. All right, so we're gonna start here because this is a great landing spot. Everything looks in check. So this will get welded 100%, ground down and finished with the flap disc. You can see why I chose the tube for that nice radius edge that somewhat matches the fiberglass fenders. So yeah, I was just saying, with lifting that with the warp, this lays out perfectly. So let's just trap this with 3. That being number 2. That being the 3rd aforementioned event. Now let's drop that floor jack and we may clamp it. Let's see what happens. Let's see how it unfolds. Came down reasonably well, but with that support being in there, I'm gonna get the big clamp and draw it together. There is a lot of stuff on the floor all of a sudden. Let's see what happens. You put that clamp here, a little grip on it. Definitely drew it down. So this is awesome. I'm gonna weld that and then I'm gonna beat that with the hammer. Should I? No, I should not. I should clamp it. Let's weld that. There's one thing with the hammer, when you hit that, other things react. Just saying. For every action, there's an equal and opposite malfunction where you're not working. You don't want to rock the boat, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's a happy little weld bead right there. You could hear that the wire speed and the voltage were in sync. There's a nice sounding and nice looking result. That's what you're aiming for. And with heavier metal like this, just about 1/8" wall tube and 3/16 plate, you could really run that heat. And I gave it a little action. I'll show what this weld bead looks like because I was stirring the pot, so to speak, because there's some rust, right? So I was just doing a little roundy round because it's set hot and fast for this size wire. All right. Let's hit one more right off of this corner. So with this heavier plate, you see the results you get. It's very satisfying because I'm taking the torch and I'm running it in the proper way. You know, the angle of the torch is feeding in the direction of travel, and I'm just stirring the pot. I'm doing the circles, and the weld beads look great. Sheet metal, it's always a little bit different because it's It's dependent on your technique and the equipment you're using. I guess heavier steel's a little more forgiving as long as you got the power to melt it. Feels like it's gonna fall off. It is. So before this clamp falls off, I'm gonna trap this. Nice corner detail, locking it in. Cool. So I'm gonna weld all this, but I'm not trying to make this go on and on. Just put a bead here. I also gotta go to the welding supply and refill that bottle, so there's that. And let's just slam it good right to this drop down support. There's a bit of a gap here, so that's the sound you're hearing. Here that sounds softer and less crackly because I'm filling in the gap. But because the metal's so thick, it takes the heat out of the weld zone and nothing burns through. It's pretty satisfying in comparison to sheet metal, where you're always like, not racing against the clock, but you know, you're conscious of the weld pool just falling through. Oh wee. Yep, it's pretty dirty here. Hey, look at that. That's 265 pounds of fury. I've actually lost a little bit, so I used to say 270. I'm at about 263, making the effort. It's an effort, it's a lifestyle, trying to do good work, trying to keep the progress going. Check out this step. I'll see you next time.